Do you ever wish you could just wake up to a perfectly put together home and a perfectly happy family? Hello and welcome to Everyday Galilee, where we seek to follow Christ in the vocation of marriage in everyday moments, every day. If you're like me, it most often seems like there's not enough time in the day. I run from activity to activity, most often thinking that I can get more than is possible to get done in a day. And near the end of the day, I look around the house, I see the messes from the day, and I have two options. Either I can clean my home, knowing that it will unravel before me the next day, or I can go to bed and get some rest before the next full day begins. I can be tempted to constantly seek an ideal home, an ideal life, at the same time knowing it's not possible and still letting it steal my peace. So I've learned that despite my perfectionist tendencies, and perhaps you have this problem too, I need to be okay with imperfection. But this can be hard. If you ever watch HGTV or other TV channels, you notice that the homes are beautiful and big, their decor is perfect, it seems like they're always perfectly put together, and you think, well, that looks like a great life, I should strive to have that type of perfection too. Or you go over to a friend's house and their house seems to be immaculate, their children seem to be perfectly put together, and you think, wow, why can't I seem to have it together like this person does? At the same time, I recognize I don't know how long they spent cleaning before I arrived, and they're probably not going to tell me, so I'll remain none the wiser. I don't know about you, but I can clean a room and 5 minutes later look around and find that once again there are toys everywhere, the bookshelf is completely dismantled, all the books are strewn across the floor, and my son, who's recently learned how to open drawers, has opened one of his drawers and thrown out all the clothes inside of it. And in those moments I kind of laugh because it's funny and he's learning new skills, but at the same time I think, oh, there's more work again. There's no truer statement with kids than life is messy. But there's beauty in that mess because the toys and the tiny clothes are a sign of love experienced in my home. I've recently been reading a book about a man who was raised by his aunt and uncle in a poor farming community. And as he reminisces about his childhood, he recounts with fondness his uncle's old, worn straw hat, the fact that they had cracks in the walls of their kitchen, the fact that in the winter they all stayed in the kitchen for most of the day because it was the warmest room in the house, the stories about their small business, despite his aunt's inability to read, and also his minimal schooling. He also recounts one day finding half a poetry book in the garbage, and he picked it up and cherished it, kept it with him for decades. His life, while simple and filled with hardships, was still happy. He stepped forward each day, cherishing the imperfections as joyful marks of his family life and not problems to stress over and to solve. Again, he recalled fondly the cracks in the wall. Who does that? How many of us would do that? If it were me, I would look at the cracks and I'd think, can I fix it, or how can I cover it so that people don't see? But he recalled fondly those cracks and wrote a book in which now thousands of people know about it. When Jesus says, be perfect, just as your heavenly Father was perfect, he wasn't referring to having every aspect of your life all together. A more accurate translation would be complete, just as your heavenly Father is complete. But even then, Jesus did not mean try to have it all in life, seek it all, you can do everything to have it all, because that would mean constantly spinning your wheels, being constantly unhappy. It means something else. To know what be perfect means for us, we need to look at the context of the passage. When Jesus says to be perfect, he's talking about love of enemies. He's encouraging his disciples to love those who are hardest to love. And this makes sense, right? And how much does that apply to families? Not that your family is your enemy, hopefully, but it's often hardest to love our families. And we also know that God is perfect love. Jesus says, no greater love has man than this, to lay down his life for his friends. The perfect person is a person who continually lays down his life for not only his friends and his family, but also for his enemies. In other words, to love unconditionally. And you know, if you have siblings or you're raising multiple kids, that sometimes the line between family and enemy is really thin. but we love each other unconditionally because that's what Christ calls us to do. The measure of perfection in your life is simply the degree to which you love. For all moms and dads who feel like you're constantly behind, that your life just doesn't measure up, that there's someone who's doing life better, think about this. Perfection is just about love. And sometimes as parents, I think we're really hard on ourselves. We expect and we desire to give our family all that is possible, and so we run. We're always busy. If you ask someone, how are they, what are they going to respond? I'm busy. We don't say it like life is good, life is full, so much as we say life is busy. But ask yourself this question. Do I think about my kids more than myself? Do I sometimes sacrifice what I want to do for my kids? Do I love my husband even when it's difficult? Chances are you can say yes to some of those questions, and if you are loving others in your family, then you are achieving perfection in the way that Christ meant for you to grow and to achieve perfection. So let's stop measuring ourselves with all of these external to-do lists, all of these external means of arranging our house, and measure ourselves simply by love. Have I loved today? If I have, then I'm doing what God wills. I'm an idealist, so I have to constantly remind myself to be okay with what is real, what is before me, what is messy. And I would guess that sometimes you do too. But at the end of the day, striving for an immaculate house, striving for some ideal of American life, striving for what I think my family should look like, is not worth my peace. Love is the only measure of perfection in my life and yours, and if I go to bed at the end of the day, despite a messy house or despite undone things on my to-do list, then the day was a perfect day. It was a complete day because I loved. Everyday Galilee is all about encountering Christ in everyday moments, and so I think this is one of the most important things that we can keep in mind. Love is the measure. God bless. If you liked this video, please hit like below as well as subscribe, and I'll see you next time.